You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, Joplin prepares to lay to rest Officer Jake Reed.
Now, just because we're getting a break from our Friday morning thunderstorm activity does not mean that we're done for the day. Oh no, we're getting ready to reload out to the west, and we'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And they say necessity is the mother of invention. For these volunteers, it's the mother of war preparation. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Last night, the public paid respects to the fallen Joplin police officer, Jake Reed. He was killed in last week's Joplin shootout. The visitation took place at the Leggett and Platt Center at MSSU. Now, the funeral for Officer Reed will take place today, and it will also be at the Leggett and Platt Center. Funeral service begins at 1 p.m. You'll be able to watch the funeral live on KOAMNewsNow.com and through our KOAM News app. Officer Reed was 27. A licensed clinical social worker with Hope Spring in Joplin is emphasizing the importance of mental health for first responders during this difficult time for our community. Counseling can be a big difference following a tragedy. Our local expert says working through feelings of grief, survivor's guilt, and acute stress is especially important right now in a profession where vulnerability is not often shown. This counselor wants law enforcement to know these feelings are perfectly normal and treatable.
It has nothing to do with strength or weakness, and everything to do with we are physiologically built to respond to stress in a particular way.
Colleen says grief can be cumulative and lead to a loss of sleep, trouble eating, and other physical problems. She advises taking breaks from social media and troubling headlines in the news. If you or someone you know needs to talk, you can find links to mental health resources in this article on our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Missouri State Highway Patrol is investigating a death in Vernon County. The Vernon County Sheriff's Office received a report of a body found in a field southeast of Nevada. Sheriff asked the Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime Control to conduct the investigation. Authorities have not released any other details. A fire in the city of Joplin sends one person to the hospital. The blaze broke out in a storage building at 14th and Virginia around 4:30 yesterday afternoon in the area of some unused railroad tracks. The fire department says individuals working inside when the supplies caught fire. One person was taken to the hospital. No word on that individual's condition. On Thursday, Foster Adopt Connect opened its doors in Joplin. It's a nonprofit organization that supports foster and adopted children and families through its 8 different programs. The organization provides clothing, diapers, wipes, shoes, household items, and more, all free of charge, and helps support children and families through its many programs.
This has been a great opportunity to work in my passion, something I hadn't had before, and so that's been really tremendous.
The kids that are tucked in every night in this community are going to have access to more people on their team trying to do what's necessary to give them a positive outcome.
Facility is at 1802 West 32nd Street. It does rely on donations. For more information, you can click on the link in this story on our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Well, out of the horrors of the war in Ukraine, the world has witnessed an incredible display of humanity from those providing relief. Jonathan Vigliotti shares an example.
Look straight ahead.
As Dr. Svetlana Pilugina checks her patient's vision, her mind is focused on her homeland.
A tremendous sense of shock, a disbelief.
Dr. P, as she's known, grew up in the Ukrainian city of Odessa. Her parents are still in the war-torn country.
There was a part of me that said, what if the worst happens? It's scary.
Out of tears, she says, came this email sent to her staff and patients.
The unfolding devastation is unthinkable. I'm organizing a drive for donation of humanitarian and medical support items.
This was the response.
This snowballed into something you never imagined when you pressed send on that email.
Yeah. The spirit of humanity is incredible.
Boxes and boxes.
Baby formula, infant formula, diapers, clothes.
Patients coming to the aid of their doctor.
What's it like to be in a position where you're now asking for help?
Humbling, but at the same time, I'm so grateful. If I help one individual person, that gives me a sense of going forward.
One person and so many more. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News.
All right, this next story, the Eiffel Tower story you've all been waiting days for. And there's a reason behind the build-up for this story.
Yeah.
Because the Eiffel Tower is building itself taller. Yes, it just got 20 feet taller. On Tuesday, a new digital radio antenna was attached to the top of the beloved Paris monument. Now, in total, the Eiffel Tower stands at just over 1,000 feet tall. Wrought iron lattice tower was designed by Gustave Eiffel and built in January of 1887. It's been used for broadcasting transmissions for the last 100 years.
We did 3 days for that story.
Yes, you did. But we had to have a build-up. Yeah, it was worth it. Hey, if we can we like toot our own horn, talking about towers getting bigger?
Yeah, because the Eiffel Tower story probably should have run at about 8:01.
If it ran at 8:01, then we would have had to push it back again to Monday, so that wasn't going to happen.
That's my point.
That's what he was going to do.
Yes, please do. Please let everybody know about our exciting project that we have here.
Yes, we are building our tower even bigger. Yes. You want to share the specifics on that, Michael?
So I promise we
coming soon.
We just started
Coming
raining
soon.
over 7th and Range Line is why I was
Okay.
locked into this. You go ahead.
So the Eiffel Tower is used for broadcast transmission. We have a tower here above us, here at the station here on Highway 69, and we are working on this tower. We're going to be adding on to it and bringing you more power so we can reach out further and give everyone a stronger signal, and that is coming very soon. Exciting news. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a month. It's a months-long project, folks. Shout out to Bill Vickery. Let's just give credit where credit is. Make sure we give credit where credit is due. Not only our wonderful engineer here at the station, he's our corporate engineer for all of our stations across the country, and just a wonderful friend and a great person. So I want to make sure that Bill gets all the credit that he deserves as we embark upon this very important project for the future of our station.
Oh, we'll definitely be documenting its progress too, so we'll bring you updates.
Yeah, I already have people coming up to me asking, like, how windy is it at 1,000 feet? I'm like, I don't know. Why is it not raining in your backyard? I don't know.
You're not going to find me up there.
All right, Tanya, we have just picked up the rain. That's why I kind of got locked into this computer in the middle here while Tanya was talking. I promise I was not trying to be rude, but I caught it out of the corner of my eye because in that street lamp right there, you can see it really beginning to pick up. And there we go. Now we see it coming down. The thing is, really for about the past 2 hours, if you will, back when we started the KOAM morning news at 5 o'clock, we had this horseshoe bubble around us where the rain pushed off to the east and was formulating out to the west, and the central portion remained quiet. And just like that, with the snap of the fingers, we are back on it. There we are outside the mothership, the heavier cloud cover still preventing us, excuse me, from seeing any sunshine. But to give you an idea of that circular look that we had, the horseshoe that I mentioned earlier, my goodness, the rain has me choked up. Well, we still have that in effect. Right now, we're starting to creep in here from the south up through 44. And of course, that right there, that heavier system, just on the other side of 44 is what we're picking up from our tower cam at 7th and Range Line. We are keeping the severe thunderstorm warnings out to our far east, so we should be done with those for the next several hours. But once again, look at the counterclockwise motion, which is why we got a ways before this is all said and done. Tanya, I want to go back to this. And we'll do the 7-day and future track here in a second. But just in that short time that you and I talked and we did weather, look at it now. I mean, that's getting on it.
Yeah, it's coming down.
Yeah, that is getting on it. All right, so number one, umbrellas, obviously. Number two, though, coat. Because you step outside right now, you go, it's 50 degrees. Mm-hmm. What's the big deal? No, our wind is shifting. We're going to drop down to the 40s by the noon hour, 30s by the time we get to tonight.
Brr.
Yeah.
We'll be ready for a weekend warm-up for sure. All right, thank you, Michael. Well, up next, a new study warns excessive napping can foreshadow dementia for some men. We're going to tell you more. And later, a story about 10 dogs were rescued from an abusive owner. Don't Don't want to miss it. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. New research into what may foreshadow dementia and raising awareness about preventing violence against children with disabilities. Bradley Blackburn has a look at some of the day's top health stories.
Young people with disabilities are more than twice as likely to experience violence than children without disabilities. That's according to new research in the UK that finds children and adolescents with mental illness and learning disabilities face high rates of physical, sexual, and emotional violence, which can have serious, long-lasting impact on their well-being. The study authors say preventing this violence needs to be a public health priority. Lithium may lower the risk of developing dementia. Researchers have identified a link between the chemical compound and cognitive decline and believe lithium may one day be used to prevent the progressive disease. Lithium is usually prescribed for conditions such as bipolar disorder and depression. Another study focused on Alzheimer's disease finds excessive daytime napping can foreshadow dementia among seniors. Researchers at UC San Francisco and Harvard found older men who napped 2 hours a day had higher odds of developing cognitive impairment than those who napped less than 30 minutes a day. Researchers also found that once cognitive impairment is diagnosed, the frequency and duration of naps often increase. That's a look at some of the day's top health stories. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is keeping Dolly Parton on its ballot, even though she asked to bow out. On Monday, the country music legend said she wanted to decline her nomination to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She compared it to putting AC/DC in the Country Music Hall of Fame. But after a few days of radio silence, the answer came. Dolly will still be nominated. The Cleveland-based Hall of Fame responded saying, quote, "We are in awe of Dolly," unquote. Several country legends who have influenced rock music are in the hall already, like Hank Williams and Brenda Lee. Besides, 1,200 ballots have already gone out to voters with Dolly's name on them. If selected, Dolly could join diverse nominees this year, like Eminem and Duran Duran.
Ooh, Simon.
That's an interesting ensemble. Dolly, Eminem, Duran Duran.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, how is Dolly Parton not in because it's no longer the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've turned this into, and this is a great thing, they've turned this into such a multi-genre award and
well, and a lot of
building of history.
A lot of Dolly songs have been taken by other artists later on and turned into like a different variety of music too. Like they've taken their own spin on them and they've gotten like you've got to start. You got to start with that legend.
I think you did a great job talking about the
place.
precedents that's already been set by those who cut their teeth in the country industry, and the fact that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has done a great job opening up to the hip hop and rap genre in the last 3 to 4 years alone. It leads me to the question: how is Dolly Parton not in that Hall of Fame?
Right. It's her time.
Every year, though, somebody pops up, and I'm like, how are they not in already?
Right?
All right, Tanya, as quick as that rain came down, cats and dogs over 7th and Rangeline, live look at it now, and it's gone. It's just kind of been one of those mornings. The heavy, heavy rain is now pushed off all the way east of Springfield. That was the system that was throwing down hail earlier, as big as 0.8 of an inch in diameter, and now we shift our attention out to the west, where we've got some impending rain coming into the western edge of southeast Kansas. As that wind continues to shift, we're going to watch our temperatures drop down to the 40s by the noon hour and continue to drop all the way into the 30s tonight. Let's put Future Track into motion and watch the counterclockwise movement that it gives. So we're a long way from being over, which is why our accumulation numbers will end up in between 1.5 to 2 inches by the time we get into Saturday morning. But speaking of Saturday, we clear off. Sunny skies for the weekend. 60s on Saturday, back to the 70s by Sunday. All we got to do is stay dry and stay warm today, and we're good to go. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Ukraine's volunteers are working to meet the demands of their frontline troops, and they're using all the tools at their disposal, doing so to repel the Russian invasion. Salma Abdelaziz has the latest from Lviv.
At the youth library in Lviv, the old adage rings true. Necessity is the mother of invention. Here, eager volunteers are cutting old clothing into strips, threading and tying it to large pieces of mesh, and making camouflage netting for the frontline troops. Lead coordinator Natalia Tamovaska tells us everyone here feels a sense of purpose.
We will be more powerful because each lady, each child, and each grandmother are with our army.
I could help my country.
18-year-old Maria Yalova fled Kyiv with her family about a week ago, leaving her cat behind.
I feel panic a bit because I don't want to leave my home.
When you look around you, how do you feel?
I feel very happy, very strong, and a bit safer and calm.
In the war effort, nothing is spared. Every single scrap is put to good use. Russia might have the more powerful military, but Ukrainians say it's their resourcefulness that will win them the war.
We'll go to wood part.
In peacetime, Andrei Levetsky's workshop makes household furniture.
Yes, we make like these doors.
But they've stopped making money and started making anti-tank barriers for checkpoints. Did you ever make things for the military before?
No, because now it's necessary to help our soldier, our refugees, and so on and so on. So we looking in internet how it's.
You looked up online to figure out how to make it.
Yes.
You watched like a YouTube tutorial?
Yes, yes.
And when tens of thousands fleeing violence flooded Lviv, the Les Corbas Theater set the stage for their most important role: hosts. These beds that you see here are not beds at all. They're parts of our fold-up theater, she tells me. The few at the front line are supported by the many of us at the rear. Creativity and tenacity bolstering a nation's resistance against a superpower reliant on brute force.
Back we go to the Skywatch Storm Tracker, where the heavy rain now pushing off east of Springfield. And we are getting a little bit of a break, but of course we saw how quickly it came down there at 7th and Rangeland, albeit for only 7 to 10 minutes. But these little pockets, when they get on it, they will get on it. And then we've got the more widespread rain still sitting out to the west. This system is a very slow mover. It has not been in a hurry to go anywhere. And it's got that counterclockwise motion to it, an indicator of that's why we've got more on the way for the afternoon hours. Also remember too, wind advisories throughout southeast Kansas. That's when we get that wind shift, and that'll indicate the dropping temperatures, gusting up to 40 miles per hour. Or later this morning. Hopefully it should be calming down in the afternoon hours, but you'll notice the large discrepancy right there, 41 in Yates Center and Iola compared to 52 in Anderson and 51 in Cassville. As the rain progresses through, and we are already sitting at about an inch of accumulation in northeast Oklahoma and Joplin Regional Airport, 1.3 inches south of I-44. It'll push off to the northeast, so the central and southern portions you'll be done first, but up to the north and the northeast lasting until Friday evening. Great looking Saturday and Sunday, though. Right back into the 60s and 70s. So stay dry, stay warm today, and we'll be good to go. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor this morning's four-state hero, Orby Whittaker. Tech Sergeant Whittaker served in the Air Force from 1950 to 1953, and then again in 1967 to 1968. He served in Korea with the 98th Bomb Wing and the 55th Air Refueling Wing. He also served in Vietnam with the 40th Air Rescue and Recovery Wing. During his service, he earned numerous medals. His hometown, Mound Valley, Kansas. We thank you, today's four-state hero, Orby Whittaker. What grim story of animal cruelty in Colorado may end up with a happy ending. 10 dogs taken from an abusive owner could soon find forever homes. CB Cotton has their story.
It's pure joy when a dog finds its new home here at the Aurora Animal Shelter. And this dog is one of 10 that'll soon embark on the emotional experience that is adoption.
Most of them are very highly adoptable dogs.
Just 3 weeks ago, the dogs, 5 puppies and 5 full-sized ones to be exact, were living in horrific conditions inside an Arapahoe County apartment. Body camera video obtained exclusively by Denver 7 showed how the dogs were being kept. Officers were called to the scene after the dog owner reported being bitten. The deputy who responded recounted what he witnessed.
There was feces and urine throughout the floor. There was blood throughout the apartment.
The dogs, a mix of pit bull and mastiff, were seized, and a 34-year-old woman was issued a summons, charging her with 10 counts of misdemeanor animal cruelty. In the body camera video, the woman implied she'd been selling the puppies for money.
I could say that somebody wanted to buy one. No, he already paid.
Since the ordeal, the puppies and dogs have been recovering at various animal shelters, including the one here in Aurora.
They were obviously kept in unsanitary conditions, so they were just super dirty. They needed a bath. We did give them all of their vaccines when they arrived, which they likely had none of. A couple of them were a little thin.
As the dogs continue to get the care they need, they'll go up for adoption across the Denver metro.
Right now we have a lot of dogs, so we like to transfer dogs to other shelters if they have space available for adoptable dogs and we don't have the room here.
The timeline for when each dog will be put up for adoption isn't planned out, but those who've encountered the dogs say they've been nothing but gentle.
So immediately I noticed that all the dogs were really sweet, really nice. I had no issues with any of the dogs.
They would really benefit from some training, but overall they're just super sweet, really social and playful dogs.
And because of that playful nature, hopefully soon these dogs will encounter the joy of finding a new forever home.
Oh, those cute, beautiful dogs there. If you'd like to learn more about local animals available for adoption, you can contact the SEK Humane Society. The number to call, 620-232-1840, or you can go to their website at sekhumanesociety.com, and they will be in studio next week. Exciting. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, maybe one small step for man, but moving NASA's mega moon rocket will take some giant steps to get it ready for blast off. And you've heard about the hundreds of thousands of refugees escaping Ukraine, but what about their pets? We've got the latest on efforts at the border to welcome four-legged Ukrainians. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Fire in the city of Joplin ends up sending one person to the hospital. The fire broke out in a storage building at 14th and Virginia around 4:30 yesterday afternoon in the area of some unused railroad tracks. Fire department says individuals were working inside when their supplies caught fire. One person was taken to the hospital. No word on that individual's condition. Missouri State Highway Patrol is investigating a death in Vernon County. Vernon County Sheriff's Office received a report of a body in a field southeast of Nevada. The sheriff asked the Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime Control to conduct the investigation. Authorities have not released any other details. Law enforcement reports multiple deaths from a fiery pileup involving up to 50 vehicles on Interstate 57 near Charleston, Missouri. Investigators believe someone hit the brakes in foggy conditions early on Wednesday, and a chain reaction followed. They say the vehicles included several tractor trailers, some catching fire. No word on how many people were taken to the hospital. They included at least one first responder. The funeral for Officer Jake Reed will take place today. It will be at the Leggett and Platt Center. The funeral services begin at 1 p.m. and you will be able to watch the funeral live on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com or through our KOAM News app. Officer Reed was 27. The public last night paid respects to the fallen Joplin police officer who was killed in last week's Joplin shooting. Visitation took place at the Leggett and Platt Center at Missouri Southern. Temporary memorial to the fallen Joplin officers Reed and Ben Cooper, the one that's been on display in the JPD lobby, will close to the public at 5 o'clock this afternoon. The makeshift memorial began spontaneously when people started putting flowers and mementos on a patrol car outside the department. Police moved the memorial inside before last week's snowstorm. The death of a law officer in eastern Missouri feels too familiar. He was killed in the line of duty and has ties to the four states. Bonne Terre, Missouri police officer Lane Burns killed early yesterday morning, was born in Carthage, where he attended school through high school. Some of his family still lives in the Carthage area. Authorities say Burns and a gunman died following a shootout at a motel in Bonne Terre, Missouri, left another officer wounded. Investigators say Burns and fellow officer Garrett Worley were sent to a reported disturbance at a Motel 6 in Bonne Terre a little after 12:30 a.m. Police say a man came out, fired at the officers with a handgun. Both officers were shot. The officers returned fire, killing the man, who was later identified as 21-year-old James Emery of St. Louis. Officer Burns later died at the hospital. Officer Worley was flown to a St. Louis trauma center with a gunshot wound to the leg. Bonne Terre, like the Four States area, is heartbroken.
This is a small community, a smaller community, smaller police department, so this really hits hard for those folks here. It's going to be a tough go the next few days, next few weeks as they deal with the aftermath of this in their community.
Officer Burns was 31 years old and leaves behind 2 children. His fiancée, Shannon Chastain, says she was listening to police scanners, heard the call that the officers were down. Ben & Jerry's is bringing a flavor back. It's called the Dublin Mudslide. It's got a little something special added in. Original flavor featured Irish cream liqueur with chocolate chip cookies and a coffee fudge swirl. The new version is going to use a new spirit. It's created by Wayward Spirit. The beverage is made from whey, by product of cheese. The spirit is said to be unique and delicious, also helping to reduce food waste. New and improved Dublin Mudslide is already popping up in grocery stores around the country.
Our country or Ireland?
Well,
to be determined.
I don't know. I'm assuming here.
I rocked a waffle cone peppermint double dip yesterday. That's my ice cream story. That's all I got.
I don't really like mudslides, so I'm not gonna probably indulge in this one.
Too much chocolate for me.
I can do like solid chocolate, but when it's liquid or ice cream-ish, I don't dig it.
I'm just kind of good. I'm good with the less chocolate in my life. Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at the Skywatch storm trackers. We're picking up some heavy rain that's making its way right through the central portion of the Four States, coming up out of the south. Kind of originated down there in Tahlequah, and now as it creeps up through northeast Oklahoma, going to take that Grove-Miami line and up through Joplin. That's actually where we've seen quite a bit of accumulation. Go back here since this started overnight, and there's 1.1 inches. This is right in between Miami and Grove. There's an inch and a half already in between Miami and Grove, and we've got additional rainfall to follow for the rest of the day. Out by Joplin Regional Airport, sitting about right at an inch. Gives you an idea how it just keeps on spinning over. And remember, it is cool once that wind shifts on you. That's a wind advisory right there for most of southeast Kansas until noon. It drops those temperatures impressively. We just walked outside a little bit ago. I was like, well, we don't have any rain here, but I think we lost about 8 to 10 degrees on the mercury, and we did so rather quickly. So eventually, we're going to get down into the 30s by late this afternoon into the early evening. Remember, we are not done with the rain. Keep the umbrella handy with you the entire day. But as this, Tanya brought up a great point, as this kicks out tonight, takes all the cloud cover with it. And so, yes, it's chilly overnight, but that also sets us up for a delightful Saturday and Sunday as temperatures raise back into the 60s and then into the 70s. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. This morning on the KOAM News Now Instapoll and our Something to Talk About, March Madness underway, the beginning of the NCAA basketball tournament underway yesterday, and of course a full slate of games today. And we're asking how you participate, or if I should say you participate in March Madness, because our clubhouse leader right now, 66% of those of you responding say no, really don't respond, or really don't participate. I really would love to have seen this poll 5 years ago, pre-pandemic. And I think the loss of it 2 years ago, and then everybody in the bubble, all the teams in the bubble, no fans or anything, it just really seemed like it sucked the life out of not only the NCAA basketball tournament, but a number of other sporting and recreational events too. That, you know, I'm not just going to say we took them for granted, but now it's kind of like, we got through life without it. Do we really need it? And how important is it? Appreciate everybody's engagement. NASA taking its next step towards sending Americans back to the moon, as a matter of fact, even beyond the moon. After years of development, tens of billions of dollars, Space Agency's Next Generation Mega Moon rocket started making its way to the launch pad. And oh, what a long trip it was. Danya Bacchus, she's got the latest.
Inch by inch, NASA's new Space Launch System, or SLS, spent the night on its first trip to Launch Pad 39B at Cape Canaveral. The 4-mile trip is the first step in the Artemis generation's journey.
Our mission is to get back to the moon.
Americans haven't walked on the moon in nearly 50 years. In a few weeks, NASA will conduct a round of tests to determine how soon the spacecraft can fly.
Anytime you have a brand new rocket system, you want to test it out on the ground before you actually light it off.
Once NASA gives the green light, the 17 million-pound rocket will launch the Artemis 1 mission with mannequins aboard the Orion space capsule on a trip beyond the moon and back. It could happen as soon as late May.
This is really like the last big test drive to prove that the vehicle is ready to go and is ready for us to get the crew in there and start exploring.
As soon as 2024, Americans will land on the moon again and make history for a different reason.
NASA has been saying all along that the very first mission that carries astronauts all the way to the surface of the moon will include the first woman to walk on the moon and the first person of color.
The massive Space Launch System is NASA's largest to date. The mega rocket with the Orion capsule attached stands 32 stories high, taller than the Statue of Liberty.
It is the biggest rocket, the most powerful rocket assembled to date by anyone. It's also the most expensive rocket NASA has ever built at about $4.1 billion of flight.
NASA is counting on the moon to eventually house an astronaut training colony and act as a pit stop on the way to Mars and beyond. Danya Bacchus, CBS News.
Artemis, named for the twin sister of Apollo in Greek mythology. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
The IRS tells Congress they'll get it done, and in this year, when it comes to the backlog of tax returns. IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig told Congress Thursday that the federal tax agency should be able to complete the giant pileup of previous tax returns by the end of this year. Let's hope so. Recently, the agency pledged to hire 10,000 new workers to process 20 million remaining returns. Rettig says the IRS is hugely understaffed, with 20,000 fewer workers than in 2010 and 20% of the workforce unable to work for pandemic reasons. Its budget is also 20% less than it was in 2010. Uno is getting a super makeover. The competitive card game is coming out with a Marvel version. Fans of Marvel's superheroes will love this take, with cards featuring characters such as Iron Man, Black Panther, Thor, and Captain America. I gotta get me some of these. Each card has its own power, enemy, and even card to introduce a new scenario. Game sets also include collectible cards wrapped up in premium foil. Fans can start playing Uno Ultimate this spring. I'm excited. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
Thousands of refugees making their way out of Ukraine, going to great lengths to bring their pets with them. Volunteers, in fact, are already ready to help at the borders. Riley Carlson, she's in London and has the story.
A few bags are all Yana Zelieva could bring with her when she escaped from her home in Kyiv to safety in Poland. Inside one of them, her treasured cat Zyka.
I think that's my son. I really love him, and I never lost him in Kyiv.
More than 3 million people have fled Ukraine in the 3 weeks since the war with Russia began, more than half of them to Poland. That's where this shelter for stranded animals is set up. Some are street dogs, many are family pets left behind.
And sometimes with a letter, and with a ride, we hope we can find our dogs and cats again. I'm getting very emotional because this is very hard.
Other animals haven't even made it out. They've been dropped off at this shelter in Lviv, where volunteers are desperate to help.
If I can bring food here and take some animals back to safety, I can't stay at home.
At the border with Romania, animal rescue workers are handing out food and water, but also blankets for pets who've been battling the cold. They also help with vaccines and documents.
Big part of them are not remaining into Romania, but are going to other countries where they need papers.
Helping refugees like Yana and her family stay together as their country is torn apart. Riley Carlson, CBS News.
Earlier this month, 3 volunteers were killed while trying to deliver dog food to a shelter in Ukraine. Their car was reportedly ambushed by Russian forces. Here's where we stand right now. Some recent storm reports have just come in, and I do want to point out the county being Sedgwick. So this is out by Wichita, far left-hand portion of your screen where you see those snowflake icons. But this is rather impressive. 1.5 inches there at Eisenhower Airport, 2.6 inches in Goddard. And as we go up to that icon right in between Hutch and Wichita, look at this. They got 3 inches of snow in Mount Hope. My goodness. So we've got snow off to our west. We've got hail reports coming out in the Branson and Springfield areas in Stone and Christian County. And like I said, really for the past couple of hours, minus this one that's sprinted up from Tahlequah up through northeast Oklahoma and making its way through Joplin, we've actually had a legitimate Friday morning break from our thunderstorm activity. It's not going to last forever, but it really has helped us out with our morning travel. As far as what we're looking at rain total wise, substantially more in that Wichita area. They're already pushing up 3 inches of, that's, you flip that, you do the conversion rate of that snow over to rain. That's an impressive number. What we're seeing right here, let's zoom in between Miami and Grove, because that's where it piled up. They got started early down there, even though it was light rain. They did start early. 1.2 inches, and then just south of I-44 of Joplin, about 1.1 inches. Drop in here in between Monette and Cassville, 1.5 inches. Everybody else in that lighter blue, that's going to be an indicator of about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. But remember, we are not done as of yet, as we get the old counterclockwise movement and spins over on itself, and temperatures will continue to drop, a result of the wind advisories throughout our counties in tan lasting until noon. Because once that wind shifts on you, you're going to notice it, and you're going to notice it quickly. As a matter of fact, out to the west, Montgomery County, Wilson County, Woodson County could see gusts of 40 miles an hour out of the north, and that's why we're down to 41 degrees in Iola, Yates Center, and Sedan, while we're still sitting 52 in Joplin, 52 in Anderson as well. Give you an idea from the national perspective, while our thunderstorm activity is part of that trough that digs down into the Arklatex region, this is going to be a mess down here, really from about the panhandle of Florida up through Tennessee. That's where today's severe weather, nationally speaking, is going to originate from. We need to kind of consider ourselves lucky so far as what we've been able to get through. Rain will stick around, though, as indicated by those icons, as temperatures drop into the afternoon and evening hours. There she is, spinning along, does decrease in intensity as it gets up to the northeast. Clearing skies overnight, and then get ready for a great weekend. We're going to roll 60s on Saturday and back up to the 70s on Sunday. So just staying dry and warm today, and we get through it. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Rescuers in Ukraine's port city of Mariupol are working to find more survivors at a theater hit by a Russian airstrike. Hundreds of people were sheltered at the theater before it was bombarded. President Biden and China's leader are expected to speak today about the war. The president plans to tell President Xi Jinping there will be consequences if the Chinese send military aid to Russia. Moderna has asked the FDA to give the green light for a 4th shot of its COVID-19 vaccine as a booster for all adults. Earlier in the week, Pfizer asked the agency to approve a 4th shot for seniors. And in a dress rehearsal of sorts, NASA rolls out the most powerful rocket ever built. The new moon rocket stands more than 300 feet high, taller than the Statue of Liberty. The rocket will take the real ride to the launch pad for blastoff in May or June.
So they moved that thing yesterday. The truck that moves it goes 0.8 miles per hour. It took them 8 hours to cover 4 miles.
Can you imagine getting stuck behind it?
You think your morning commute's bad.
I know. Like, I was complaining this morning. I was like, I can't pass.
Hey, Tim, do we still have that picture out of Wichita? And once again, I do thank you. That's perfect. Oh, you're awesome, man. I do want to stress this is out of the Wichita area. But, you know, these storm reports came in pretty fast and furious with the amount of snow that they got. 3 inches in between Hutch and Wichita. So with it being Friday, and I was thinking about travel plans for people and whatnot, if you are headed out west, that's what you're going to run into. It hasn't affected any of our highlighted counties. Even Greenwood County has been okay so far. But yeah, be on your toes if you've got to head out to the Wichita area. If you're headed to Springfield, anything like that, the thunderstorm activity is already to the east of it. If you're headed down south, Tulsa, Bentonville going to be okay by the time you get there. They're raining a little bit right now. Remember, it's going to pretty much rain all day long into the evening hours. Colder temperatures, but a beautiful weekend. 60s on Saturday, 70s on Sunday.
All right, well, I'll be ready for the rain to move on out, that's for sure. And thankful that we are not getting snow here.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, celebrate spring with free ice cream from Dairy Queen. Yeah, spring, we keep telling you, it's just around the corner. Thankfully, so is Dairy Queen's Free Cone Day. Ice cream chain bringing back its annual ice cream giveaway after canceling the event for 2 years due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Thank you all for letting us put the good in your morning. We'll be back with more news and weather when we see you Monday.
Have a great morning.